Alright, so I've got a little bit of time, so I wanted to slip in something that was really essential. Alright, this video is for a lot of you newbies out there who are new to all this stuff. A lot of new people don't get the results that they want, usually from a handful of reasons. Now, there could be all kinds of reasons. There's a few things we can go through to make sure that we are in check or in line with the formulas so that we can get the results. Now, number one is like dabbling. So if you're like, oh, this looks cool, this makes sense, I'm going to try it. And then you try it and then it never comes about. You just took one shot. That's all you did. You were just dabbling. Doing things once is going to get you nowhere. If you just cast it for one thing like a new computer, and you need a new computer, then how are you going to forget about that? Because all the while you're going to be going home, you're like, oh, well, I don't have a computer, or you have a computer that you don't like. And then it's not going to come about because that's all you've casted for. You see, a big problem with a lot of people is they say that the hardest part is forgetting, but honestly, that's the easiest part in my opinion, because I'm constantly moving on to the next thing and casting something else. It can be anywhere from every day of the week to at least 2 to 3 times a week. Now, you're like, well, how could I want that many things? Now, this is why it's essential to practice, because practice is key to this. Because if you're not practicing, you're dabbling. Just simple stuff. But anyways, when you're practicing, when you're casting for a lot of things, it's easy to forget. But you're not always going to just cast for things that you need or want. There is a sort of maintenance to this, in my opinion. So there's like some things that you think about from like day to day. After you get a practice, you'll start thinking in a certain way, trust me. And you'll be like, this would be a good idea to cast for this. Like, how out of the ordinary would that be to come about? And then you know that it's not just a coincidence, that synchronicity has brought that to you. And so in a way, it's also reinforcing it. And so for a lot of people that have the problem with having faith, this will also back up the faith. Practice alone will fill in all the gaps that you're having. If you're like, well, visualization is a problem. Well, you have to practice visualization and meditation. And the thing about practice is that with practice comes experience. You wouldn't want surgery from, let's say, somebody at McDonald's that read a few articles on WebMD or something. No, you want an experienced doctor. You want the guy that has the degree or the girl that has the degree and knows what they're doing and has at least years of experience, Imagine if you were going into a life or death, surgery, and the nurse comes in and she's like, so we're wanting to test something out. And from that moment, just alone the word test, you're going to be like, oh God, what am I getting myself into? She's like, well, we've got this new doctor. He's never given surgery before, but he needs his first time. Now, of course, everyone needs their first time, but if you were approached with that during a life or death situation type of surgery, you'd be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You'd want to be in the hands of somebody with experience. With the practice comes the experience, and most of your questions will be answered. Also, as I've mentioned, when you meditate, your intuition expands. The questions that you have will come to you like that. It might be on a billboard. You might be reading something 2 days later, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was wondering about this. And it had nothing to do with what you were even looking for. You just forgot about it. It's like when you're trying to think of a word, it's on the tip of your tongue, and until you let go of it, then you'll remember later. Or in the background, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I'll be talking to somebody, and I'm like either trying to think of a certain place, a certain movie, and I can't think about it. And usually within a day, I'll either be out at a restaurant, and you got everyone talking, and it blends all in. But also while I'm talking to someone, I hear out of nowhere like the name of the movie, let's say Yes Man. And I hear it specifically that out of all the voices, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's the movie. I know you've experienced this. This is exactly how it works. And so all your questions will be answered if you meditate. Through intuition, you'll get practicing onto visualization. Your imagination will grow stronger. It will come easier as long as you practice and you're not dabbling. And the point of practicing also on those small things is that you don't really have a lust for result for certain things. Like you might need a new car and certain big things like that you'll be thinking about on a day-to-day basis. But then also you can cast for things such as, on Freighter's channel, he had a sigil where, I'm actually not going to say what it was because I actually want you to go look at it. I'll make up something different actually. You could cast for a panda toy to show up in your workplace, and then bam, a panda toy would be there. Now, I mentioned scale in the last video. I'm going to go off topic for a second. And I was mentioning how I was watching a video and there was somebody talking about how to manifest the big stuff, and they just went on and on about visualization, and yeah. But the thing about that is scale. It's all rational to each other. I don't think that's the right word. Either way, you remember when you did math and you would have two squares on a grid, or like you'd have a building and it'd be a word problem such as Nissan has a prototype factory that is 2 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches. Now the scale needs to be that. Now the actual like real factory needs to be like 2,000 times that, and you multiply it. It's the same thing. The small thing is just as the same size mentally as the big thing. It's if you make it a big deal, it's gonna be a big deal. Now that's not to say like, I need to become a millionaire. That ain't nothing. No, it's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you have trouble manifesting a panda toy at your workplace, you're probably going to have trouble manifesting a lot of money. It's going to be just as easy as doing that. You see, this is why we cast for little stupid things like that. You could cast to see certain animals. Like I said, one time I casted to see a peacock because I've never seen a peacock, and I always wanted to go see one whenever I was a kid. But at the zoo, every zoo that I went to, there was never a peacock. And so I casted for a peacock, and one day I'm driving over by the grocery store, and there's a field right behind it, and there's just this peacock dipping across the field. And so I pulled over, I got out of my car, and I took a video. I thought it was super cool. Now the phone is broken, and so I honestly think I emailed it to myself. If I did, I will add it to this video. But either way, cast for the small stuff as well as the big stuff. They're really the same, and also it'll help you forget. So then you don't have the lust for results, because that's a big problem too, is that you'll have the lust for results for that car that, that empty spot in the driveway. You want the car. You need to fill the space up. And so you might be thinking about it every time you walk to work or something like that. And so I would put that on a sigil and like slip it in with a bunch of other ones, and then forget about what each one is about, and then you're basically charging them all the same way, as if they were all the same thing. You're not like, oh, I know this sigil is like something like really big, like I know it's like something that I'm gonna really love, and so you're like, no, you're not gonna know the difference. You're gonna charge it the same way every way. That's the thing about scale. You can't look at it as if it's a big thing, otherwise it will be a big thing. It's like when I don't know if anybody's ever gotten on stage and spoken in front of a lot of people. If you go up to the stage with that nervousness and everything, I'm telling you, as soon as you get up there, you're like, And now with practice, it gets better. But also, the second time I ever spoke in front of, I guess, a large group of people, it was at school. And I was told to just act like I'm just up there speaking to myself. Just talking like I was talking to a friend. And it calmed me down a little bit. And I walked up there, and like for a second, I was like... But then as soon as I breathed back out, all the nervousness left me. Because the first time, it was a big deal. The second time, it was, I'm just talking to a friend. Scale is all in the mind. Remember that everything begins in the mind. See, all these principles manifest themselves in different aspects of our life. And we know these. So you might listen to a video and you're like, yeah, I've always understood that, but I've never been able to put it to words. That was the same way whenever I came into this stuff. Either way, I wanted this video to be like 7 minutes. I actually planned for it to be like 7 minutes or less, and it's already at 12, so let's move on to the next thing. Oh, also I want to go back on scale. It's as easy as manifesting that toy as it is a new car, as long as you employ visualization and the will and feeling, emotion. You have to employ these correctly. Once you have that, it all comes easy. It's all the same. But you have to practice to get good at this. You have to practice to develop your will. You start this by either accepting the positive or negative thoughts, the exercise that Frederick Xavier gives that I've mentioned so many times on this channel. It is a life changer. But either way, the next thing is confliction. Confliction in the mind. And what do I mean by this? I'm meaning your mindset, the way you look at things. And you're like, oh, we've gone all over this. Well, I'm also going to talk about negative thought patterns. Your daily thought patterns will contribute to what you're casting for, because you're already casting for things without even realizing it, as we've gone over. See, what do I mean? Now, let's say you are doing an operation and you cast for a raise at your job. You're wanting more money. Remember, as I said, you need to feel deserving? Well, you'll notice that some people, I've known certain people who I've taught how to do these things, cast for the money, but then later on, complain about how broke they are, and they're all angry, and then they're really, employing, visualization. They're using their words, which is very powerful, and they've got the emotion set into it, triggering it. And so you can't be like, well, I want more money, but then also complain on the other side. This is why we filter out the thoughts, so that your thought patterns are in harmony with what you're wanting to bring about. See, people are bringing about the things that are in harmony with their minds. They just either don't care, or they don't know, or, a lot of people are just stuck, to be honest. And that's why I'm here. I'm not trying to save everybody. You can't really do that. But what I am trying to do is, if anybody is out there looking for, just some help on just like, what am I here for? What do I need to do? Now, I can't tell you what you're here for, but I can help you get there. And so that's the point of this channel. I'm adding my 2 cents to the pot. Maybe somebody will find some value out of this. I don't know. I can only just continue to put these out and do what I do. But either way, these have all been the major points on the things that really screw up what we're casting for, as it all begins in the mind. As I said, the mindset, the negative thought patterns. It's a rarity that a positive thought pattern could screw you, but also to the law of polarity, it's very, very possible. Another thing that I am not going over in this video, because I'm going to make it the next video, is timing. You could have timing wrong. Now, this falls into the law of rhythm, and it's something that needs to be learned. It's not something too essential, as I have casted for things out of time and still had the results come about. So in the next video, we're going to go over when to plan what we're doing to get the best result. Because if you've just been going by my videos alone, you may have a problem manifesting things, because I have not ever mentioned timing. At least I'm pretty sure I haven't. And this is why I've said since the very beginning, go listen to other people talking about this. I've given multiple different channels and people to listen to, all kinds of different things. Don't just watch my videos. Don't just follow these lessons as this life guideline. This is to add to your perspective of life. You have an individual perspective of life, and I want you to keep that one, because that's the one that's going to benefit you. But only you know if it's benefiting you right now, and only you can get you to where you want it to be so that it can benefit you. Wow, that was a mouthful. Either way, after that video or a few videos later, I am going to give you a video that will give you a practice. It'll give you a hands-on. You will gain experience. If those of you who are like, well, how do I do this? How do I do this? That video, you should have no questions on what I should do, because we're going to be going over sigils. Now, I think I said I was going to make a course on that, but I changed my mind. I'm going to just put it on here. It's not going to be an in-depth course, because, to be honest, out of all the courses and books that I've read on sigils and every website that I've read on them, I'd have to say there are some pretty good ones already out there. Number one, Frederick Xavier's Manifesting Reality is a very good one that turns it into a daily practice, or at least a weekly practice. Now, I think it's only about $30, but I recommend you go buy that. And then if you don't want to buy it, you can look up on YouTube. There's tons of them, but in a few videos, I'm going to go over them. I'm going to go over how I make them, just a few little pointers, some things that, I might watch a few YouTube videos on sigils just to see what y'all are watching. Might fill in the gaps that some people leave out. It tends to happen. I even tend to do that. That's why I'll have to come back and be like, oh, I mentioned this, but I didn't go into it really, so here's this video. But either way, start practicing. You will get the experience, and with the experience, you will get the results you want. It's been 18 minutes, and so I'm just going to cut this loose. If you want to see my last video, you can click right here. If you want to subscribe, you can click right here. And if you want to see my last video, you can click right here. And I will for you all to prosper and have a great day.